Hey, Jules Blessed Vegan, and as always, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who are new, I know you can benefit. So I want to give my testimonial on why I went from meat eater to vegan. It's certainly not required of anyone. It's not required at all, and it's not even preferred in our society. And that's for so many reasons. We actually come into the world. For those who are blessed, they obviously get to breastfeed initially. Some women cannot breastfeed, so, the baby may start on a bottle right away. But mostly, we're already indoctrinated as infants to already be eating meat, right? You get your little baby Gerber foods, and they got little ones with turkey and little ones with chicken, and they have all the mini foods of adults, just bland and highly blended to get into the baby as quickly as possible. And it just kind of goes from there. We're just born into a society with no choice on eating animal products. Eggs are considered super healthy, and little kids get to eat their egg, and it's just cow's milk to the max. Even in my family, with so many children all a year apart, we would get, I don't know, 10 gallons a week because it builds strong bones. Like, we have all of the reasons that we're supposed to be consuming animal products. And I am absolutely a product of that. Ironically, I couldn't really consume milk. It always made me sick to my stomach, and at best I would have what they call blue milk, right, which is like the very watery, non-fat milk. But because of the enzymes that are created when you add sugar and all the things to ice cream, ironically, I could consume ice cream with no consequence. I didn't get diarrhea, it didn't make me sick. I could definitely do ice cream. And I couldn't eat eggs in pure form, and every time I did, I would end up throwing up, much to my family's dismay. But I could eat it if it was hard boiled. Again, something about it changed. I could eat it if it was in certain foods, incorporated into things like cake. Was it mind over stomach? No, I don't know what it was, but that's how I certainly was able to get in dairy. And for me, we, big family or not, my parents liked their quality meat. And, we often had steaks, and we had pork chops, chicken. Fish only when Charlie Bulabaton would come. This great Japanese cook who was a friend of my father's would bring fresh fruit down from Mexico and fresh fish. Okay, that's it. That's funny. Fresh fish from Mexico, and that was always amazing. Okay, so then when I got older, and I preferred the junk food. I just liked hamburger and hot dog. If it was cheap meat, I was all in. I didn't mind ground beef in my spaghetti sauce. I it was just part of my life. Well, then when I did get a little older, as a teenager and in my early 20s, I just wasn't favoring meat. I didn't really want it very much. Um, I would choose non-meat items, but like many people, I was taught that, first there's regular cow, anything to do with the cow's meat, but then the healthier choice is the chicken and everything to do with the chicken, and the healthiest choice is fish. And so over time, that's kind of how I devolved, going down, down, down on the healthier eating meat. And my husband loved meat, and kind of much like him being willing to correct papers for my students early on, I was willing to eat meat early on. And I was one of those girls who would easily have a double decker bacon avocado cheeseburger with fries and a large chocolate shake. You know, I remember McDonald's had a thing for a little while. I'm trying to think of what it was called. It was supposed to be like the healthiest of their hamburgers, and it came in a 2-part container, and that kept like the lettuce and tomato fresh, and the meat was on the other side, and the fun part was combining them, and it was like the healthiest choice, and I felt really special when I ate it. I just felt like I was doing the right thing for my body, and I felt really special. Later, I remember literally buying whole chickens and, taking all the stuff off of those pre-cooked chickens, and feeling so good about myself for eating all that chicken because it was so high in protein, and just healthy and delicious, nothing else with it, just that chicken and, maybe some rice on the side. But, oh, I was so proud. And then much later, I was incredibly proud of myself for only having salmon, beautiful salmon with vegetables, and salmon was so healthy, and maybe some mahi-mahi, and nobody questioned any of it because that's what you eat. And I was happy to do it, and I literally just thought I was healthier, And then a few years ago, literally 4 years ago, I had to change. Sooner than that, 6 years ago, things were turning on me. I was having a ton of health issues, and I knew that I had to cut back on everything, but definitely cut back on sugar, cut back on a little bit of milk products. I still wasn't putting it together that ice cream and stuff like that belonged to cows, and that was their mother's milk, and that the baby boys were being ripped from their breast, and all the children are ripped from their breasts because they have to stay pregnant in order to serve humans, and then after a few years they're considered worthless, and then they're finally slaughtered, and their parts are used for various things, and none of that occurred to me. And the same thing with all the meat down to the fish, and it just, none of it occurred to me. I just knew I wasn't feeling well, and that something had to change. And in that, God started giving me content on potentially going vegan, plant-based, things that were very foreign to me, and I really just couldn't even imagine the possibility of doing it. For a lot of people, the last thing they give up is that cheese or milk. It's so hard, and then being vegetarian isn't that bad, right? And sadly, it is that bad, because when you dare to delve in to the different stories from Cowspiracy to now Seaspiracy to What the Health, and there's so many things. I think it's called Kiss the Earth, but whatever it is, there's so many documentaries, and they just explain how, unfortunately, today there's just no gentle way to steal from an animal and not have a consequence. And as I've suggested before, the joke is usually on us. Our body is not designed to break down meat. Our teeth aren't made to tear flesh and crunch bones and bite feathers and all those things. Our stomach acids aren't designed to break down the fat that's innate in all of those foods. It's just too much for our body to handle, and that's why our organs are clogged, and the exponential number of people with heart disease, and just all the consequences of going against our natural way. So anyway, about 4 years ago, I started watching some of those documentaries, and was shocked by the abuse and the craziness, and the understanding, that we really mass produce these animals just to feed our excess, and how so much of what we have is wasted. 50% of all food, minimum 50% of all food in developed countries is thrown out every day, and it's just so terrible. And in mass producing the animals, inevitably we have to feed them, and the amount of soy and corn and grain that's used to feed those animals for us to eat excessively could easily feed the 2.5 billion people who are starving in our world. And it's just such an irony, and it's really an elite thing. It's really elite. And it kind of bit the Egyptians in the butt so long ago, over 5,000 years ago, when, of course, the slaves were eating the plant-based food at best, and the royalty were eating the upper, you know, meat of animals because they could afford to. And they were dying of all the diseases we have today, all those years ago. So it really does turn on us. So anyway, finally, I was really, really sick. And I see that it's God in retrospect. But I was just sick to my stomach every day. I didn't know what to do. And the doctors didn't have an answer for me either. And so to just kind of get through my day, I was making vegetarian broth. Not making it, I was just buying veggie broth, in the thing. And I was just putting that in a thermos because it's all I could drink to get through the day. And after I'd gotten through feeling a teeny bit better, I was incorporating just whole vegetables. I mean, I would literally just skin a cucumber, cut the seeds out of a bell pepper, have a tomato, like just full whole vegetables because they were simple on my stomach. They were easy to crunch. I can move them easily. I was kind of in that place where people were telling me, people meaning mainstream media and some people, that some things were better. So I had learned that Greek yogurt was better than regular yogurt. So I was buying Greek yogurt, with fruit inside. And I had learned that goat cheese was better than cow cheese. So I was eating goat cheese instead, and I was really proud of myself. I really felt like I was stepping it up and caring for myself by doing these things. And, maybe to a small extent I was. There's really no evidence that one is better than the other. None of them are good for the goat, the cow, or the human. Humans are the only ones who drink the breast milk of another animal. Most have the breast milk of their own parent, and as soon as they're done with that time, they move on and don't consume milk again, and the milk of a cow is literally designed to get a baby cow up to 400 pounds at the 6-month mark. And in many ways, it is how it affects us. The saturated fat is very hard on our bodies. And, I get it. Growing kids, get that milk in there, strong bones. Well, it grows a lot of things. That's what's kind of interesting. Whenever you're taking a lot of anything, you're taking a lot of everything, meaning whatever the negative consequences, it's in there as well. And, that was true for me. Like, even when I was much heavier than I am right now, and believe me, I'm still dealing with weight, people would always say, such a pretty face, And I was getting the nutrients of every single thing because I was consuming so much food. So there's no doubt that I was hitting the mark. But I was also exceeding the mark with all that additional food. And exceeding the mark was bringing all the detriment, from the migraines to the thyroid condition to the, kidney problems, to, like, on and on and on. The acid reflux, of course, and, just so many things. The familial tremor, like, just so many problems in my body. More is more. It's kind of when they have to do chemo, and God bless you if that's your story. But while they are killing the bad cells, they're also killing the good cells. Like, you just can't separate them, I remember at the beginning of COVID when people were trying to blame China and saying that they're godless people and it's for their sins. And I was like, be careful, because kind of like cigarettes in a restaurant, the smoke doesn't remain contained. Okay, it doesn't know the borders, and either does COVID. So you can think it's for sin or anything else, but guess what? It's here. So yeah, it was the same thing. I was doing some things right, but the many things I wasn't were getting me really bad. But anyway, that's kind of how it started for me. So then finally, I found a couple of, really passionate people in social media. And I've mentioned Tanny Rom many, many times. And you can find her on any social media platform for health. But she was just a dynamo, in explaining why it was the better way. There were really important doctors, in the plant-based movement. And Forks Over Knives was a really big one for me, the documentary, and then, of course, the webpage as well. And all of these people with just passion saying, If you want to improve your health, you've got to get off of dairy and meat. If you want to improve the planet, you have to get off of dairy and meat. If you want to help with global, warming, get off the dairy and meat. And it was really hard at first. I slipped a few times that first year because I spent more than 50 years eating that way. And my body and mind were very confused. There were many times where I thought, I can't do this forever. And you can't do something forever, but you can do it for 24 hours. And 24 hours become 48. You can do things just for today. And tomorrow morning will also be today, right? Because tomorrow always comes today. So I get that it's hard to break any habit. And when you stop certain things, you will realize the addiction. Seriously, the headaches, the shaking, the craziness, just from all the chemical-laden foods that we eat. All the the food-like products in our grocery store. How all foods in a grocery store, 76% have artificial and regular sugar injected into them. So much of it isn't necessary. You would never imagine sugar would be in those things. And so when you get into the plant-based movement and literally the whole foods plant-based movement online, they really recommend SOS, which is to remove sugar, oil, and salt. And that's super scary for people. It's the way they were raised. They love it, or so they think. So for me, I haven't been vegan for but a blink of an eye in my life. I was sort of vegetarian before that, but again, I never just ate eggs to eat them. I never drank milk to drink it. But those things were definitely in the things that I consumed. And I don't think I ever loved meat, but what I loved about meat was all the toppings. And that's true for so many people. It's not just the dead animal carcass, but it's how it's prepared, right? It's all the toppings, sugar, salt, heat, fun flavors, the way that they prepare it, and inevitably the bright elements that they add to it on a plate. Because just a plain brown piece of meat isn't great. But bright everything, bright ketchup, bright mustard, green pickles, red tomato, green lettuce, like the stuff that they put with it suddenly wakes it up and makes it look amazing. And I bought into all of that. I bought into all of it. So my point in sharing this is I am happy to be vegan at this time. It has eased many of my ailments, and I've shared that. If you go into my search, you can put in, whatever I was healed from. And I continue to be healed, and I trust the whole thing. And certainly I've gotten a ton of hair that I didn't have before, which is a great sign of health. I don't have any swelling anymore. My ankles don't swell. My teeth and gums are healthy. I'm so happy for that. My eyes are bright. They may look tired. It's midnight. It's always midnight. It is always 5 after midnight. I can't explain it. There's many, many things and many benefits to that. But I think another thing that gave me the courage to not be so selfish was that I used to drive every single day by a dairy farm. They just moved out of California because they said that there was too much plant-based milk and they weren't making the profit that they needed, and there were cheaper states to go to. And so, seriously, overnight, they cleared that entire dairy farm. It was shocking. I said good morning to those people and good afternoon to them all the time. And we had 1 week off of school. And when I came back, it was Thanksgiving break. When I came back, they were all gone. I still pray for them because I know they're somewhere. And I did hear that there was an accident and 12 cows had been killed in it. And I wondered if those were some of them being transported, And my prayer is always the same. It's, dear God, bless them in their brief time on the planet. Comfort them in their slaughter. And give me the courage to not be part of their detriment ever again in this lifetime, through Christ our Lord. Amen. And I just pray for that. So, do you have rights? You'll always have rights. But the devil loves that the most. He loves that the most. In my compulsive eating and in my insanity with food, every time I hoped for something, it came. Whether it was in the form of a child giving me a little box of chocolates for Valentine's, whether It was that unexpected birthday cake, the donations from church, showing up in the teacher's lounge, no matter what. If you want it, it's going to show up. You want the drugs, they'll find you. You want that extra sip of alcohol, you'll get it. You want the money that doesn't belong to you, the temptation will come. The devil loves clients. Right up until he meets your needs and he moves on to the next one and you're left with the consequence, So yeah, is it your right? Do you love your meat? Like someone was saying to me, I love my meats. And I'm like, yeah, you. Yeah, you. Can you be brave enough to abstain for the planet so that you might live longer for your children? I mean, would it be so tragic? And you see all the time, no, it'll never be the same as meat. It will never be the same as regular milk. It'll never be the same as milk chocolate, but it'll be close. And after a while, you can trick your tongue because the cells on the tongue change like every 3 weeks. So pretty soon, those substitute, I call it junk food vegan, but if it'll get you through and it's not a dead animal, your tongue will adjust. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of beauty in eating God's food. And that's kind of where I am right now. So I just wanted to share with you. I was a meat eater 1 minute ago. Sometimes I'm not afraid to smell it because it still smells amazing to me. A lot of the time, I wish I was repulsed by it. I'm not. I still have to make stuff for my family. I'm not as happy to do that. I don't like forming patties and getting the gunk under my nails and stuff. I just don't. But I'm just saying, I have to discipline myself for the better way and for the betterment of the world. Can you relate to that? We will always have the rights for so many reasons. But should we? All right, my friends, like if you like joining us, if you haven't subscribed, let me know in the comments below how I may support you, even in getting started. Again, if you could just do one meat-free Monday, it would help the planet. If you could just really be aware of how much dairy and meat you use, and even worse, how much you waste, and just reduce it by a couple of meals, that alone would help the planet. For real. Okay, until we talk again, know that you're blessed.